darn thing about his pet peeve with the judges on the charter and the social issues. And so when he says we want political accountability, not judge-made law, I think after I've dug way deeper into this man's brain than I ever wanted to, I think that's what he means. So the legislation is just, it's about power, power, and more power. It says without limiting subsection 1, a regional plan may make law on any other matter within the... This is the only section that's unconstitutional. It's hilarious. The idea under our Constitution in a parliamentary democracy is that a lawmaker, if they want to make a law, they have to convene the legislature. You may have heard that they've delayed the legislative sitting for this spring, but they have to convene the legislature. They put a bill in, it goes to 3 readings, committee of the whole, and it gets passed, royal assent, and is law. So you make law through the legislature. Well, for this government, that's a little too inconvenient. So they thought, well, wait a second. Why don't we just give ourselves the power to make law in the cabinet room? And somebody's obviously said, hey, great idea, because here it is. So regional plan, so the cabinet through regional plan may make law on any matter within the legislative authority of the legislature. And it may designate to advance or implement or both advance to implement the purpose of an act. It can manage the surface and subsurface of any land or natural resource. It says with respect to the planning region, it may make part of the planning regional plan law about matters in respect of which local government bodies may enact a regulatory instrument. So it can exercise the function of your local council. And let's talk about local councils. Remember, you're not going to be able to go up when the cabinet's considering the regional plan and how to deal with your land and make an appearance before them like you can with your municipal council. And the reason for that is, under our parliamentary traditions, cabinet has the right to secrecy. That's why they're always private meetings. And I'm not complaining about that principle of parliamentary procedure. I think that should stay the where it is. My point is, you can't go up to Edmonton and ask to meet with cabinet. It doesn't happen. So, what do they say about the municipalities? They say, this is a consequential amendment they made to the Municipal Government Act. It says, if the minister, this is the Minister of Sustainable Resource Development, used to be Morton, he moved to Finance, now it's Mel Knight, considers that a municipal authority has not complied with an ELSA regional plan, the minister may take any necessary measures to ensure that the municipal authority complies, including suspending the authority of the municipal council to make bylaws. Then under B here, the minister may exercise the bylaw-making authority of your municipality on its behalf. And D, listen to this, they can withhold money otherwise payable by the government to the municipal authority until they comply. So that's what these guys think is good policy. But they say, oh no, I have it all wrong. They say that, and this is kind of cute, they even put this in writing lots of time. They say that they're really not taking powers away from municipalities. What they're doing is the government is only telling municipalities that they have to align their land use and planning documents with the cabinet's request. That's all. They're not taking anything away. So, you know, so my teenager comes to me on Friday night and says, Dad, I want to decide what I'm doing this weekend. And I say, yeah, that's absolutely okay. You get to fully decide what you're going to do this weekend as long as it aligns with what I've decided you're going to do. So I haven't taken away any rights from you at all. I don't know what your problem is. And they actually put that in writing tons of times. They keep saying, oh, we're not taking rights away from municipalities. They just have to align all of their decisions with what the cabinet says. Okay. Reality is that the cabinet can, and let's understand the breadth of the power here. The cabinet can impose its will over the wishes of the local community. So if the local community says, no, we want this area of our municipality to continue to be used for this, cabinet say, too bad, we're your new central planners from Edmonton, you got to do it our way. The other thing that I think is troubling and isn't obvious is that the municipalities, when they develop their municipal development plans and their land use bylaws, go through a process where local input and decisions are made. The fact that the the cabinet can effectively reverse those decisions by saying, we don't care, that's what the consultation 2 years ago led to, we don't like it, we're overturning it. The next is, right now, extinguishment power, section 11. The cabinet can extinguish existing development rights, water licenses, land titles, development permits, subdivision plans, you name it. Up until they passed this law, they didn't have that extinguishment type of power. And let me give you an example in a development context. If a municipality, and the other point I want to make here is that the way they wrote this legislation is retroactive. So it reached back in time. And it disregards the concept of grandfathering. Under the Municipal Government Act, if you have the old hotel on Main Street and you notice it's 3 feet from the curb and all the new businesses are 10 or 12 feet back, right? Why did that happen? Even though the setback rules changed over time, they didn't force that hotel to tear down. They grandfathered it. They made sure their law was not retroactive. Bill 36 is deliberately written to be retroactive. That's why they use the word extinguish instead of cancel and some other things, okay? It obliterates the right. So if all of a sudden, on some cases, and in this rebuttal that they released on Friday, they give some specific examples of where they would use their extinguishment powers. I thought they were going to deny they'd ever do it, but anyway. And one of the examples was a dairy farm, a feed lot, another one was a country residential subdivision, another one was a water license for extinguishment. And in any event, if they start to do this, think about the uncertainty. If right now, before this bill comes, I own my land and I'm going to sell it to you, you want to know you're getting something of value. Well, if all of a sudden my title can be extinguished, that brings uncertainty into it. And it's that certainty around ownership and ability to transfer that creates our market, that makes our whole system work. And it applies to development rights, water rights, resource rights, forestry management agreements, you name it, grazing leases. So I think the effect of this policy as they move it forward will to create uncertainty in the value of things and the security of tenure in them, which will create economic impacts. The other thing, of course, is that the way it's structured, it allows the cabinet to ignore the wishes of the local community. One of the things the government says as well, and I'm not going to go through all my points because we'd be here for too long, but they say, oh no, don't worry, we're going to have regional advisory committees, or councils. I keep calling them committees, they're really called councils. And they call them the RAC. We've got a RAC, we've got a RAC, it's okay, don't worry, we're going to have a RAC. Well, let's take a look at the RAC. Here's what the law says. The Lieutenant Governor Council, so that's the Cabinet, Section 5 of the Act. A regional plan may be made or amended, so this means when the Cabinet goes to make its regional plan or amend its regional plan for Edmonton, planning every square inch of land in Alberta, it can make that plan and approve it whether or not, see the not? Whether or not a regional advisory council has been appointed. So they don't even have to appoint one, they can just go ahead and do stuff. Well, what if they do? Do they have to follow it? It says they can, regional plan may be made or amended whether or not a regional advisory council or other person has provided advice on the proposed plan, irrespective of the advice given and irrespective of whether or not the advice was considered or followed. So the considered part means they don't even have to read it. So they can either decide not to appoint one, and they decide the terms of reference and all this stuff and who the people are, or they can decide to appoint a regional advisory committee, council, and they can decide not even, they don't have to look at it. Section 15, sub 1, sub B clearly states they can make or amend whether or not the advice was considered. So I think Minister Morton described it as giving them a lot of administrative discretion. I think that's what was his words. So what does it mean? Cabinet decides everything. Cabinet decides if there's going to be a RAC, who will be on it,